Hi boys and girls, in this video we'll talk about poker cash game, online poker obviously, how to win at online poker cash games. Here we are playing NL100 euros on Winamax, and there will be a big tip as we do in every video. We'll talk about one big tip you absolutely need to know, and the content will depend on the hands we're gonna play. So yeah, basically we used to talk a lot about the optimal strategy in poker, which is GTO, and we try to see how to adjust, how to deviate sometime, how to think. So yeah, one big tip about poker cash games in every video, and also a very good, strong and solid poker. So let's go. Bottom right, we've been dealt a pair of kings and a recreational player on the cutoff just limped. We ISO raise, completely standard for 3.5 big blind, and another recreational player in the big blind overcalled. Now the cutoff, who limped called, the cutoff player now donks, so we're gonna build the pot and try to go all in. I expect to be ahead 90% of the time. Okay, and the guy limped called with 4-3 suited and didn't even shove versus our flop raise, which would have avoided in his part. It would have avoided the scenario where it disconnects after he calls the flops, the flop raise, and lose the hand, which sometimes happens, but he likes the funky plays. Okay, so we lost this spot, but when this happened, obviously sometime you're gonna lose pots, eventually big pots, which is not the case here, fortunately, against recreational player. You need to understand that it's like a loan. I mean, like a mortgage. He will give back the money with interests, so you must absolutely avoid feeling angry or stressed by this kind of events. It's absolutely normal, and fortunately the recreational players continue playing poker because this happens sometimes. They win lucky pots. King 9 suited, overcall, multi-way pot. We want to play pots against the two recreational players. We turn trips. Okay, and the recreational player donks. There are many draws. We're gonna raise this. If he shoves, we're not in a great spot. We'll probably have to call because he might shove with stupid holdings, but we're being beat by many other trips with better kicker. He calls, so now his hand is either an 8, a king, or a small full house with a pair of 6s, for example, or a busted draw. So I'm gonna go all in, hoping to stack his 8s or his small flush draws. His small full houses. Jack 10 offsuit, overcall, top right. I'm gonna bluff this pot on the turn. I think in this pot the better holding they can have would be a pair of kings, maybe. So 2 pair, aces and kings. Betting big, maybe we can make a pair of king fold. Here I hope he folds tens, eights, a pair of sevens, sometimes a king. Okay, ace 10. Obviously, I don't expect him to fold this. Very strange the way he played it. Most of the time he should lead the turn, obviously with his trips. Medium kicker. So yeah, we'll see which big tip we're gonna talk about in this video. It's gonna be in the middle of the video, maybe at the end. We'll see. Depends on the hands we play. In the previous vids we talked about 4-bet pots, and also we talked about polar ranges, polarized spots, like for example the spot we've just played with King 9 suited on the river, how to play versus this kind of range. So yeah, I recommend that you watch the previous vids from this series. It's a video series about cash game only, and yeah, there are many good tips. Here we're gonna value bet once again with ace 10. I think he's gonna call us with many gut shots like queen jack, queen 10, 9 10, jack 8, many hands. And on the river, unfortunately, now we split with his ace 3, ace 4, ace deuce. But so be it. I don't know if he would call with a queen, or the guy insta folds on the river, so he probably calls way too much with his draws, even his weaker draws, especially on the turn, because folding so fast on the river, and it's not the first time this happens. So by the way, regarding what I said earlier, the guy paid back his loan and he's gonna probably pay the interest in the future. So you need to really be cool with the recreational players. Even if you play on a website when you can talk with them, talk with any player, just don't be rude, don't be aggressive, don't be a dickhead, basically. Just keep cool. Many players play poker because obviously they like the game, but they also like when there's a good atmosphere at the table. Pair of fours, we're gonna open this hand. Sometimes maybe a fold, depending on how tough the table is. If you're playing against very aggressive rags, which who will 3-bet you very often. Sometimes you can fold these low pairs. But a pair of fives, for example, would be a pure open from middle position. By pure, I mean that this is the standard play 100% of the time, always. You can study these frequencies, the pre-flop ranges, and obviously the post-flop frequencies as well, using the GTO tools, GTO softwares. Obviously, most of these softwares are very expensive and pretty hard to use. Let's fold this King Jack suited. Or 4-bet. Let's play the game, the normal game so far. I have no reads on him. The recreational player opens 5 BB from the button. Queen 8 off, let's defend. If he checks this turn, I'm gonna try to bluff. Let's 3-bet with our pair of eights. And bottom left, he calls the turn, and now I think he won't. Yeah. Okay, he played his hand well, and I thought that he would call too much on the river on such a run out, which was very bad for my hand. Even ace high, I think he would have called. With a pair of aces, we're gonna 4-bet big, and okay, jumps, fine. We were playing 140 BB deep, so that's a good reason to size up a little bit your 4-bets. This allows you to include more bluffs. You need to know that the bigger you bet, the more bluffs you can include in your range. This is pure math. And also, when you're playing 140 BBB, the out of position player is gonna feel very uncomfortable versus a big 4-bet, so he can start jamming obviously the top of his range, which includes hands that I beat like kings, queens, maybe jacks sometimes, but 140 BBB, it's a bit too much to jam with jacks. Depends on obviously who you're playing against, but sometimes you can include bluffs like ace 5 suited, for example, hands like this. I've seen players jamming jack 10 suited. Ace deuce is the bottom of our range. We're gonna bluff this. It's the bottom of our range. We're playing a recreational player. We don't need to balance our range too much, and I don't think, well, basically I bluff half pot in this pot, which needs him to fold 1/3 of the time, to at least 1/3 of the time, to make it a plus EV play. And yeah, I think that was fine. When you bluff, you need to calculate the break-even percentage you need. I'll talk about this later. I've just defended this pair of sixes against the 3-bet. Top right. Depends how big he bets. If he bets on this flop. Okay, bets small, so it's a call. It's a call almost always, almost 100% of the time. Holding a backdoor flush draw or not doesn't change much with our sixes versus this side, versus this size, versus this bet sizing. Now on the turn he bets big, but I still need to call sometimes. I'd say something like half the time. By the way, I use an RNG on the other screen. This Jack of Diamonds is a terrible river. Not good at all. Yeah, okay. So we'll need to fold these sixes. I can't see any reason to level myself. I mean, in GTO land it's a fold for sure. Now, would he do this with Ace King? I don't know. It's not enough. It's too far away from the. I mean, in GTO land, it's a 100% fold on the river for sure. So basically, when a spot is like, for example, a 15% call or a 25% call, which means that most of the time you should fold, but sometimes you should call. Well, in these spots, sometimes you can think about it and yeah, this guy bluffs a lot, blah blah blah, or he's tilted, blah blah blah, I think he overbluffs, so I might increase my frequency, my call frequency, and call much more than only 15% or 25% of the time. But when it's like a 100% fold, this means that it's not a break-even call, EV wise. It's just a losing call, so just don't do it. And here I'm absolutely sure playing 100. I think we started the hand like playing 130 BB deep or something. So yeah, and it's an obvious fold. So yeah, what I said earlier regarding the break-even frequency when you bluff, in order to calculate it, you need to calculate the risk you bet. The risk is what you bet when you're bluffing, divided by the risk plus the reward, which is the pot. So here I bet half pot, so it was like 0.5 divided by half pot, 0.5 plus the pot, 1. So 0.5 divided by 1.5, it's 1/3. So the guy needed to fold 1/3 of the time to make my bluff break even. And if he folded more often, it was a plus EV bluff. So yeah, you need to be able to calculate these kind of things, obviously. we are playing a lot of non-GTO sports, and so I think the big tip of the day will be related to this concept. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about when to play GTO and when not to play GTO. Basically, you need to always think in terms of GTO in almost every hands. This is the starting point of your thinking process. Basically, this means, okay, mathematically speaking, in this spot, I should do this or I should do that, and you need to study the game, to study the GTO tools, to eventually hire a coach to help you. And by the way, I'm not available for coaching at the moment. So yeah, GTO is the starting point in most of the hands that you play when you play cash game. But sometimes, well, in fact, in practice, it's the starting point of 80 to 85% of the hands you're gonna play. But sometimes, like 15% of the time, you're gonna play a hand where GTO logics. Gonna defend this ace queen just by calling versus this small 3-bet. The GTO logics are not a big concern sometimes, and this happens when you play, for example, a multi-way pot, which happened several times in this video, in this session. Let's call once with this ace queen and see what happens. So yeah, multi-way pots, first of all, yeah, you need to know that GTO is a thinking process, a tool. It's a mathematical science which aims at preventing that your opponent exploit your leaks, exploit your tendencies. Well, when you play a multi-way pot, for the opponent to exploit you, this would require that he would also exploit the other player. If it's a 3-way pot, there are 2 players he should exploit. If it's a 4-way pot, he should exploit 3 players, and this is really very, 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 very hard. So when you're playing a multi-way pot, it's a bit useless to think that the other player might take advantage of so many players. So being unexploitable is not a big deal in these spots. Other spots where you don't need to spend time thinking in terms of GTO versus shallow stacks. Oh, by the way, there are no GTO solutions for multi-way pots at the moment. It would require a lot of calculations, a lot of hardware, a lot of softwares, and it would be very, very useless. So this doesn't exist at the moment. It's very funny to see that some tools say they might offer this in the future, but you need to understand that it's really useless. As useless as many solutions we can find at the moment. I don't want to say bad things about the web-based GTO solutions which are available right now, but it's a lot of bullshit. But yeah, we'll talk about this later. So other sports where GTO is absolutely not useful. When you play against a shallow stacks, the stack to pot ratio is so low that your opponent won't get a big EV by trying to exploit you most of the time. They are recreational players. So yeah, GTO is not really involved in these spots. When there an ISO raising or yeah, when ISO raising or leaping is involved in the hand scenario, you don't need to think in terms of GTO. And also most of the time, oh wait, we all trips and we face an overbet on the flop, so we called very fast. And now a small bet on the turn, so basically our opponent says he's got 8s, 9s, 10s, a weak 7, or like ace 7, and he calls very quickly on the turn, so he must think we've got some kind of combo draw, like one over card plus spades. Oh yeah, and the guy insta calls with 8s, which is great. He doesn't even think about it. He doesn't even think that maybe his pair of 8s is just beat. Oh, that's great. We're gonna review this hand once again because it's a very bad play from his part. Queen Jack suited, bottom right. Let's forward this. If I was playing high stakes, which is what I do most of the time, there's a lot of call. There's a lot of calling involved, like 2/3 of the time, or yeah, 3/4. But here we're playing middle stake, NL100, so we're gonna 4-bet this very often to avoid the rake. Yeah, let's review this. So he overbets, it's a call. Now it's a raise because we want, on the turn it's a raise because we want to build the pot, and we would balance with like king X of spades, king 5 of spades, king whatever, king X of spades, basically ace X of spades. I think it's a call 100% of the time, I think. He's got 86 BB deep, 86 BB left, so we need to build this pot and overbet, shove the river, and the guy insta calls. The player insta calls with the 8 of spades, which is exactly the card you don't want to hold in this pot, because I could be bluff raising the turn with 9-8 of spades, for example, or 10-8 of spades, because this would give me the flush draw plus the gut shot. And the guy holds, he basically doesn't know anything about blockers. It's funny to see the guys insta calling. Basically, they seem to play with fixed ranges. I mean, there are no mixed decisions in their plays. It's just, I don't know, so strange. The guy has, yeah, I'm gonna fall. The guy has a big time bank and doesn't use it. Plays like a robot and making the wrong decisions. So yeah, as I said regarding the big tip of the day, when not to play GTO, when you play against a shallow stack, or where limping or ISO raising is involved in the hand, these spots are the land of psychology, reads, being able to calculate odds, being able to evaluate your equity, your EV. This is pretty easy, I would say. Obviously, most of the time you're playing against recreational players in this spot, so it makes the game easier. But all the other, let's value bait. let's value bet this perfect. But yeah, 85% of the time, 85% of the hands you play when you play cash game online, you need to start your thinking process with, okay, what this spot, what's my opponent range, what's my range, what's the what's the GTO play in this spot. And now, once you've done this and you've come to a first conclusion, you follow your thinking process. Okay, is there any good reason to deviate from the GTO? Should I be more aggressive, more passive, blah blah blah? And this is what a coach should help you to achieve, getting this thinking process ready before playing. And so yeah, in this spot with my ace king, I'm value betting. Well, I'm continuation betting 1/3, which is enough because I have a strong range advantage on this king high board. And yeah, basically when this thinking process is not absolutely ready in your mind, just avoid multi-tabling. Just play maybe 2 tables if you want, but yeah, multi-tabling is okay when this thinking process is really clear in your mind. When I used to play a lot, I could play up to 12 tables or something like this, because the thinking process was really clear in my mind. Now that we need to balance our range much more, because the game is tougher and yeah, opponents are tougher, you need to think more. So I'm not able to play so many tables at the same time. Okay, I'm gonna stop this video in a few minutes. Feel free to send love in the social networks. Feel free to follow, to say what you like in my vids, what you don't like eventually. Just let me know what you want to watch in the future. I record vids because I like it first. I think it's interesting, and also I hope they are useful to the people who watch them. So let me know what you think about this. Feel free to share these vids with your friends, and yeah, in the YouTube page, feel free to leave a few comments, a few likes. As many follows as you want. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, anywhere. And yeah, that's a pleasure to record these vids. Let's gonna end with these 2 tables where we have 600 BBs spread on these 2 tables, which is always a good news. Yeah, no more action. Okay guys, good luck in the future, be brave at the tables, and see you soon in the social medias. Bye.